بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد والثناء لله رب العالمين، بارئ الخلائق أجمعين، باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين، ثم الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا وشفيع ذنوبنا، الذي سمي في السماء بأحمد وفي الأرض بأبي القاسم المصطفى محمد، وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المكرمين المنتجبين، لا سيما بقية الله في الأراضين، روحي وأرواح العالمين لتراب مقدمه الفداء، ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين إلى قيام يوم الدين. For the hastening and the return of our Imam, please recite a salawat. We were talking about the establishment of the Hawza by the Ahlul Bayt, by the Imams. And the reason why we were discussing that is to understand the importance of the seminary, the Hawza, in our understanding of Islam today, the importance of our connection with this establishment, the importance of us being able to receive divine teachings through this establishment, through this institution, the Hawza, the seminary, the Islamic seminary, the Shia seminary, in the different cities that we have this spread out in the Shia world. There are many reasons why this would be beneficial for us to learn. We started off from understanding the idea that if we are to submit to Allah, turn towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in all areas of life, and trying to understand what He has prescribed for us, and know that that's the best prescription, that's the best solution, that's what we should be moving towards. In order to do that and implement that in this day and age, in the absence of the Imam, it is the Maraja, the establishment of the Hawza. This is where we receive this from. But people, some of the enemies, are making use of some of the questions, the genuine, sincere concerns that the brothers and sisters throughout the world, especially those living outside of the Shia strongholds or predominantly Shia countries or regions, these questions that we have, the enemy looking to separate and create a gap between the believers and the Hawza establishment. It's good, we said, for us to understand this institution, the Hawza. And I feel it is hopefully going to be very beneficial for the brothers and sisters here to know this, and also for those who are following things up online, inshallah. We talked about the history of the creation of the Hawza establishment after understanding, and I want to repeat this point, because it needs to, sometimes you need to hear something a number of times and allow it to gradually penetrate, and for you to really get hit by it and to feel, wow, this is amazing, and feel the value of it. And that is, out of all religions, our beloved Imams were able to create an institution for after they leave our communities, for the time of the occultation, for the time of the ghaibah, that the people in this institution are not ma'soom, but yet they're going to be preserving the words of the Ahlul Bayt, the teachings of the Ahlul Bayt, exactly as they were during the time of the Ahlul Bayt, without any deviation. Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense for those who are following the theological discussions and trying to make everything fit into a big picture. A serious question and concern, based on the explanations we have for why there has to be an Imam after the demise of the Prophet, is to figure out, if that's the case, if we need a guide, then how did the Imams go into occultation and we're still here? If those reasonings are true, then why do we not have the Imam amongst us? And there's many elements that we have to understand why that is. One of the most important ones is that they did leave behind something that is going to preserve this religion until the arrival of the Imam. Not only preserve it, as we said, allow it to spread. Look at what has happened between the time of the occultation of our beloved Imam and today. And see how much growth, expansion throughout the globe. How many people are coming to Islam? Just look at recently, this recent 35-year-old revolution. You know how many people have come into Shia Islam just because of this? It's amazing. I don't know if I mentioned this story. It's really, still it's a shock for me. When I visited South Africa, Cape Town, the entire community in Cape Town, except for a few exceptions that were immigrants, all of them were South Africans. They're all from Cape Town. They're all previously Sunni. They became Shia. No scholar came from Qom, from Najaf, from Pakistan, from India, from Afghanistan, from Iraq, from Lebanon. None of these, no scholar went there to propagate Shia Islam. It was the Islamic Revolution. Them seeing Imam Khomeini on television, following it up, reading about it, they became Shia. And that wasn't the only part of the world. No. So many people have come into Shia Islam just because of the recent developments. God knows how much has happened before that. But this step that was taken by the Hausa establishment, this revolution was something that was led by the Hausa establishment. It's not just one figure, Imam Khomeini. There's a lot of talk about what happened during the revolution to explain to you that this is truly the case. If we only had Imam Khomeini, this would not have taken place. He was the most important figure involved there. He is, first of all, the product of this, but also other figures that are there at the Hausa institution. This is what the Imams have left behind, that not only has it preserved, but it has the responsibility of preparing the world for the coming of the Imam of our time. This is a miracle of the Ahlul Bayt. One of the miracles, one of the most important miracles of the Ahlul Bayt. And others could not do it. We were explaining how they did it. And we're very, very briefly touching on this. Believe me, when you delve into that history, we mentioned this yesterday, I believe, again, or we mentioned it then, and we're repeating this point. But it's truly a fact. When you look at that history, first you enter with this mindset that, you don't have a clue what that history is about. You just want to read. You get an idea. Then a question comes up. You refer back to the same books that you've read, and you read the behavior of the Ahlul Bayt. You're like, oh my God, this has another twist to it. I didn't even see it last time I read it. Then another question pops up. You read it again. You're like, oh my God, there's so much information there from that perspective as well. And it's never ending. Okay. So we're just briefly touching some of these dimensions. What we said is that the Ahlul Bayt created this very, very vast ocean of knowledge with very, very deep concepts. The teachings are so deep that even today we're still trying to go deeper and deeper and deeper, and really there is no end in sight. Okay. And we talked about that area, I think, for a while, more than what I expected. But we said that there are two other elements that are equally or even more important than the knowledge that is involved here. Number one, trying to put a spirit of taqwa in these people, train this spirit of taqwa to an extent where even if the Imam is not around, they are not going to shift and divert. This is extremely crucial. This is actually where we started off from. We said that the reason why we're calling this the miracle of the Ahlul Bayt is that when you look at previous religions, it was the scholars who were most knowledgeable of this religion or of those religions that ended up diverting it and deviating it from the right path. The Ahlul Bayt created a system where these people, without the presence of the Imam, are going to move it forward. They have the inner spirit of taqwa that the Ahlul Bayt have put in them. This is extremely important. How did they do it? It took a pretty long time. All right, it took a pretty long time. We mentioned Imam As-Sajjad Salamullah alayhi. And he is a very, very important figure in starting all of this up. We talked about statements he would make, sometimes writings that he would put together and he would distribute. He would ask the believers to make copies of that and to distribute it, to spread it around. The information contained within these letters is really a very nice combination of everything. I was reading one of them once, and you know, it's very different. When we give lectures, all right, when we give lectures or we write an article, we're very focused on a very particular topic, all right? And we usually are supposed to be focused on that topic. That's one way to speak. That's one way to write an article. And there's good reason to do things in that way. All right. But there's another method that you can make it into a mess, or you can make it really productive. And that is a combination of everything. A combination of the deep thoughts with regards to our beliefs, the connection between everything and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Putting in there political elements that tell you who to stay away from and who to be with, who to be careful of and who to befriend. All right. Putting elements of social activities, how to deal with your neighbors and so on and so forth. Putting all of that combination in a few pages in a way that when you read it, you don't get lost. And you have to stop at the end of every sentence and just try to let it seep in, okay, and soak in. This is the type of letter we have from Imam As-Sajjad being distributed. And much of the emphasis in that letter, in other letters, in other speeches, in his own behavior, very importantly, the behavior of the Ma'sumin, which there's misunderstanding on. The Ahlul Bayt showed their companions that there has to be that inner taqwa. They constantly reminded their believers and told them to remind themselves of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of the hereafter. Scare yourself. It's important to have that fear. وَاذْكُرْ رَبَّكَ فِي نَفْسِكَ تَضَرُّعًا وَخِيفَةً. Remember the Lord in yourself. This is a verse of the Holy Quran. With tadarru', feeling the helplessness, feeling that need, and that we need to rely on Allah. Pleading for it, begging for it, but also khifah, with that fear. There has to be that fear. They, on one hand, constantly reminded the believers, these students of theirs more than everyone else, about this. And on the other hand, very, very importantly, they warned about the danger of the love of the dunya, especially for the ulama. Okay. They constantly warned about this. And it's something that our communities have got to know and be careful of. We have hadith on this. It's in Al-Kafi. It's in Al-Kafi. It says, one of the ahadith, it says one of the things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke to Prophet Dawood ala nabiyyina wa alihi wa alayhi salam was this idea that you have these qutta'u tariq. You have these people that are thugs. You have thugs that used to come on the traditional path where caravans would want to go from city to city for trade. They'll be waiting, hiding there. When you're going on that path, they would attack and they would take all of what these people had. There's a path we all human beings are trying to go towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a path that we have. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this communication with Prophet Dawood that the Imam is telling us, he tells us that you have these people that are thugs on that path. They're waiting for believers to come, and they mislead them. Who are these people? Those who have that knowledge but have the love of the dunya. Okay, the love of the dunya. They want this dunya. They want material benefit. Okay, that's what they're trying. The reason why they study or the reason why they preach isn't for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's for the sake of the dollar. Okay, how much are you going to pay me? Bargaining. I won't come unless it's a first class ticket or things like that. This is a danger. The Ahlul Bayt told the ulama this. Got to be very careful. Got to avoid that. And of course, he's said this. They have said this for the communities as well. You have to be aware. If you see me wanting all of that luxury, if you see a mu'ammam wanting all of that luxury and bringing excuses such as, we have heard Imam as-Sadiq salamullah alayh dressed in good clothes. Really? He used to wear expensive clothes? Did he wear the same clothes that Harun al-Rashid and Mansur al-Dawaniqi and these people wore? Most expensive? Or just, at the time, it was just average clothing that they would wear. And I don't see the marks of you carrying anything in the middle of the night to the poor people, the poor neighborhoods, the ghettos. Okay. Why is it when it comes to first-class tickets and expensive clothing, Imam al-Mujtaba, Imam al-Sadiq, they wore good clothing? When it comes to splitting, Imam al-Mujtaba a few times gave away all of what he had. A few times he split all of it in half without cheating. All of it in half. Everything was split in half, given half of it's gone to the poor. All right. Why is it when you want to enjoy it, Imam al-Mujtaba? Okay. When you want to give, what happened? No, the Ahlul Bayt, through their behavior, they showed this. When one of those times Imam al-Sadiq salamullah alayhi in the middle of the night was going out to distribute food amongst the poor people in the ghettos, one of the companions saw him, and out of respect, sometimes this happens. People want to respect the ulama, and unfortunately it gets to their heads sometimes. Okay. Yeah, there's a good reason why people would want to respect the imams. But the imams didn't feel like, oh, here you go. You want to respect me? Here's the hand as well. Go ahead. You can kiss too. No. There's a pushback. The imam doesn't want that respect. It's good for people to respect. The imam doesn't. Sometimes we go overboard and we do things like that. This person came out of respect. Oh, ya imam, ya Abu Abdullah, allow me to do this. He said, no. In my words, if you want to do it, go get a bag yourself. Okay. I got to do this myself. Okay. It's important. The imam is doing this not just to show people. He's got to do this. Even God knows if that person would have come there and seen the imam in the first place or not. All right. They did this in hiding. Now, once upon a time, this person was passing by and he saw the imam. God knows how many times nobody saw him. He didn't go bragging about this, telling people about this. Through their own behavior and warning them, be careful of the dunya, they were able to produce these great ulama that they could confidently tell the people, whatever this person says is my word. Because they know this guy is not going to lie. Okay. This is the taqwa, the spirit of taqwa that they put in these ulama, which has come to this age, and I'll explain that. The other point that we mentioned was teaching them and training them how to deal with the bad apples in the house establishment itself. This is very serious, okay? It's natural. when people are not ma'soom, you're going to have some people that are going to be the bad apples. All right? In whatever society, whatever community, whatever institution, you're going to find them. If the son of the imam becomes the spy upon Imam al-Askari to make sure the imam of our time is not born, all right, then you can just imagine someone that's not even the son, hasn't been raised in the house of the... You're going to have them. The question is, how are the good ulama supposed to deal with this? That very long span of time between the time, if we just start from Imam al-Sajjad, because we can say it started before that, but the problem was that that generation of the products of the training of the ulama, the imams, pretty much had to go to the battle in Karbala or they passed away. Imam al-Sajjad pretty much started from scratch. Okay. So if we say from the year 61 after the Hijrah until the year 329, this is when the Ahlul Bayt were training these ulama. The year 329 is when the minor occultation came to an end, and the Imam completely cut off that relationship, the official route, of course, where he would be speaking and communicating to people in an official way. During this time, a number of events happen. Okay, naturally, obviously, naturally, you have those bad apples coming up. The Imams dealt with them. Okay, and the Imams, the scholars, the students of the Imams went through that experience and they saw how the Imams dealt with this. I want to talk about two of these examples very briefly, hopefully. Recite a salawat, please. The first is Muhammad ibn Abi Zaynab, known as Abu al-Khattab. Okay. There's a lot of lessons for you all to learn and for us to learn from this story as well for today. Muhammad ibn Abi Zaynab, or Abu al-Khattab, is a person that when the Imam started having more companions in Kufa and he was in Medina, obviously not all the believers could travel all the way to Medina. This figure, this individual came to Medina and he was appointed by the Imam to be the go-between. He was the messenger. He was the one that brought the questions from Kufa, concerns, news, whatever the believers wanted to say to the Imam. He was the means of communication. He was the connection between the rest of the people and the Imam. You could imagine what type of weight that has. Okay, so he goes back and forth. He brings their questions, their concerns, their comments, whatever it is. The Imam responds and he brings it back. Okay. Gradually, he starts to realize, well, that's a lot of power. Okay. And the Imam is not there in Kufa to see what's going on. He's the only person that is the connection between the Imam and the people. And sometimes you have that over here. All the way out here, some of the offices of the Maraja, okay, you don't really get to see the Marja, right? Sometimes the connection, it can be a little dangerous. Okay, we hope all of those people who are connections remember those very dangerous things that the Ahlul Bayt have said if we go astray. All right, because this is a very serious position that we're in. All right, being the connection between the people and the establishment of the Hawza is not a joke. It's a serious business, and people have got to be very careful what they say, what they attribute to the ulama, what stances they take. So anyway, he started getting to his head. And so sometimes he would bring sayings of the Imam, but seeing all those people coming and asking, what did the Imam say here? What did the Imam say there? Maybe it started out in this way that he couldn't fully remember, or he hadn't written it all down maybe. And so he would add a couple of words here and there, and he saw, oh, people accepted from him. Okay. And he started doing a little more of that. He started intentionally adding more. Now that people hear me, okay, why not add a few words of my own to this mix? So he started saying things, and people, believers, like, doesn't really sound right. Okay. They start communicating with the Imam through other means, like, this is what's coming out. Did you tell him this? Is this coming from you? Or the Imam said, no, this is not what I have not said this. The Imam puts him aside, but The problem is, he's already gained that influence to an extent. There are people that listen to him. In order to continue his influence, you know what he started to do? What he started to spread? Something very scary. People do this. A lot of times we play right into the trick that these people have for us. Being Shia, having a lot of love for the Ahlul Bayt, considering them people that are really too far for us to really picture who they are, people play on that. What do? They start making up lies about the status of the Ahlul Bayt. He became one of the ghulat. He started doing ghulub. He started saying that the Imam, now the Imam has told him, look, this guy's not listening to me. Okay? He wants to do it for himself. But what does he say? He says the Imam has ilmul ghayb. Therefore, we have a number of hadith. The Imam completely rejects that. Categorically, he says, I don't have knowledge of the ghayb. Only God has knowledge of the ghayb. That has an explanation, of course, to it. But the point is, he started making that up. Not because he was genuinely concerned with people understanding that the Imam has, based on what God has given him, ilmul ghayb. He was concerned with something else. He started telling people the Imam has ilmul ghayb and other things. And people, because of their love of the Ahlul Bayt, they think, oh, this guy's a really good person. Right? Be careful of those who speak very highly of the Ahlul Bayt and constantly playing on your emotions with regards to the Ahlul Bayt. Because that could be a way that they can grab your attention and make you feel that this guy is a really good person. Let's listen to this guy. And every time they want to convince you to do a wrong thing, they'll throw in a few of those in there. Let's see what this guy did. One year he took some of his 70 people. He created a cult, okay? Based on these wrong ideologies, wrong practices, he started telling people that they should be praying when it gets completely dark. All right, Maghrib time, or the time of Maghrib, instead of it being sunset or a little after, you have to wait until it gets completely dark. Cult practices, okay, giving them instructions, differentiating them, creating them an identity for them, and he's the leader of this. He goes one year to Hajj. He takes these people. He's not completely cut off from the Imam at this point. He goes over there. He takes these people to the Imam. The Imam speaks to them, reminds them of taqwa and so on and so forth. And then he tells them, the Muslims have only one leader. The Muslims only have one head. Why do you guys have this phony leadership amongst yourselves? He attacked the root of it, but in a subtle way. Okay. He raised this question. He didn't say this guy's a liar. These people are attached to this guy. He didn't say this guy's a liar, this guy is this guy is that. He said, why am I seeing this situation? That this guy, I haven't told you guys to follow this guy. And you guys are treating him as your leader. Where did that come from? In this way, in this very particular way, whatever he says, you listen to him. So Abu al-Khattab sees this. He says, well, looks like we can't really see the Imam anymore. Next year, you know what he does? They want to go to Hajj. Everybody, Hajj Muslims, they want to go to Hajj. They want to see the Imam. He plays on this idea of the Imam having ilmul ghayb. The Imam has ilmul ghayb. He's like the Anbiya. He actually has rububiyyah. This is ghulub. The Imam is Rabb. He starts being the connection between the Imam and the people. And now for his own purposes, he's boosting up what the Imam is all about. To reach what conclusion? To say Imam is Rabb. And what you guys need to do is not go to Mecca. Stay right here in Kufa and say Labbaik to the Imam here. And that's going to count for you. This is Abu al-Khattab. Some reports say it got so bad with these people that they would used to fabricate hadith and put a hadith within the books of the followers of the Ahlul Bayt, the ulama. They would borrow those books, add hadith to them, fabricated hadith, and give it back to them. This is how much they wanted to deviate the Shia from the right path. How did the Imam deal with this? We have some of the harshest statements from the Imam, trying to clarify to people. We have tens of ahadith, people coming and asking the Imam doing la'an, hardcore la'an. In fact, the Imam cursed this man, Abu al-Khattab, and whoever truly follows him, and said, "O Allah, make them feel and taste the heat of steel." Okay, swords. And that's what happened. They were all killed. The Bani al-Abbas, they came over there. They wanted to fight them. This guy really was in some form of hallucination, I believe. He was telling his companions, "Oh, your bamboo sticks are going to act as spears. Throw it at them. And their spears are not going to be effective towards you." And so you could just imagine what that lie is going to do. They start fighting, and well, obviously they're going to start getting killed. And some of them went back to him and said, "It's not happening, this, that, the other." And so he's like, "Oh, prepare for shahada." And they all get killed. This is how it is. All right. The Imam, la'an upon la'an upon la'an, explaining to the people that where this person went wrong. This is one example that we had, that the Imam quickly made it clear and let everybody know. And that's why you had a smaller number of people. They had about 70 people with him that got killed, and that was pretty much the end of that story. But even after that, the Imams kept saying, "Look, you should understand this. If somebody starts at," this question was raised, people had to be educated on. They asked, I believe it was one of the other Imams was asked, why did the Imam first make him his representative and then take that away from him? So they have to be trained. They have to see this happen. The Imam said, well, he's a good person, then he's going to be given that position. But when things change, then the Imam's position with them is going to change. So this is one example that the Imam went through. Another example that we have is a story, a very serious fitna occurred after the demise and the shahada of Imam al-Kadhim salamullah alayhi. It is the fitna of the waqifah or the waqifiyah. All right. I was reading more on it today, and it's really amazing how all these different elements came together to make it such a difficult fitna to go through. Okay, fitna by definition, this particular usage of it, means a very, very difficult social test, that things are very confusing. We know that Imam al-Kadhim went or was in prison for long periods of time. The last one was a few years that he was in prison and he was not out. During this time, what the Imam had was what we talked about, I think, previously. Last year we talked about it, in Arba'in we talked about it. And what we're sort of talking about, this Hawza establishment or institution, within this institution of the Hawza where these scholars are being trained, you have that idea of representation. They call it the wukala. They had different wakil of the Imams. When the Imam was in prison, he communicated to the people through these wukala. How did he communicate? Well, before he went to prison, he'd already strengthened their position. The people knew that they had these wukala, they have these representatives. If there's anything they need to ask, if they have questions, they can go to these wukala. If they have khums money, they go to the wukala. If there's disputes, they go to wukala. All right. So they have a very, very strong position. One of these wukala, or a few of these wukala, the particular one that I want to talk about, is a person by the name of Ali ibn Abi Hamza al-Bata'ini. He's one of the main wukala of the Imam. Apparently, according to one of the sources that I have read, he was based in Kufa. He is based in Kufa. The Imam is in prison where? In Baghdad. Let me give you a little bit of background about who Ali ibn Abi Hamza al-Bata'ini is, to understand the danger and see what the Imam al-Rida salamullah alayhi had to deal with. Okay. Ali ibn Abi Hamza al-Bata'ini, who is a wakil of the 7th Imam and lived through at least part of the life of the Imam al-Rida as an Imam, was a child during the time of Imam al-Sadiq. One of the companions of Imam al-Sadiq, his name is Abu Basir. There's a couple of Abu Basir, but one of them at least, if not both, is al-Makfuf. Okay, he is blind. He cannot see. So, well, back then, what they would do is that they would have, if they could find one, a child. They would have children that could be taking these people around. All right. Ali ibn Abi Hamza al-Batani as a child was a person, the child that used to be responsible for taking Abu Basir anywhere he wanted, including in the presence of Imam al-Sadiq. Okay. So as a child, he used to constantly, regularly have visits with Imam al-Sadiq. Okay, he would visit the Imam. And he even has direct ahadith from this Imam. In other words, he's been at an age where he can remember his conversation with the Imam, a question he asked, the response that the Imam gave. This is Ali ibn Abi Hamza. Okay. And throughout the life of Imam al-Kadhim as an Imam, between the year 148, which is the year of the Shahada of Imam al-Sadiq, until the year 186, which is the year of the Shahada of Imam al-Kadhim, right? All these years, 40 years, he's the companion of Imam al-Kadhim. We have loads of ahadith from this man. Loads of them. Okay. So he's definitely part of this institution that we're talking about. But during these last couple of years that the Imam was in prison, this khums money constantly was coming. All right. And, well, they're supposed to be waiting for the Imam to come to give it to him, but the Imam is still in prison. When the Imam passed away, Ali ibn Abi Hamza al-Batani had 10,000 dinar, 10,000 gold coins. Another person, his name is Ziyad ibn Marwan al-Qandi. He's another representative, another wakil. He has, I believe, 20,000 gold coins with him. Some of the others had other figures, more or less, gold coins with them. And this is where that dunya, see, that's why they had all this warning about the dunya. Be careful, stay away from the dunya. Don't get attached to this dunya. Because of 30,000 gold coins, they sold Imam al-Rida. They said Imam al-Kadhim, who was assassinated and poisoned and killed in prison, loads of people came to the burial ceremony. They saw the burial of the Imam. It was clear that the Imam has passed away. They claimed that no, the Imam has not gone into occultation. The Imam has not passed away. He's gone into occultation. Okay, this is the Mahdi. And some of the other interesting things that made this happen was that some of the ghulat were saying that about Imam al-Kadhim before even these guys thought of the idea. They started saying that this Imam has gone in hiding. He has the resemblance, or he resembles Jesus, the way that the Christians, well, we believe that about Jesus as well, that he was not killed. Okay, they fabricated this hadith that the Imam al-Kadhim has this resemblance to the Prophet Jesus. Okay, so they said he was killed and he died, but he didn't actually die. Okay, so they made use of that and these claims that he's gone into occultation because of the 30,000 gold coins that they wanted to take. So when Imam al-Kadhim passed away, a lot of the Shia are now seeing these great ulama are telling them, no, Imam al-Rida is lying. Right? these wukala of Imam al-Kadhim are saying, no, the Imam has gone into occultation. Imam al-Rida is openly announcing to people, I am your Imam, something very strange, because the previous Imams were not able to do that. Imam al-Kadhim himself had to say, I'm an Imam in hiding. He would have been killed. Now Imam al-Rida is coming out openly and saying, people, I am the Imam. These people were saying the Imam is lying. Not only did they say that the Imam is lying, they came to the Imam to try to argue with him. This is what the love of the dunya does. Started arguing to him, trying to prove to him, the Imam of the time, that he is not the Imam of the time. Lying by omission. The Imam tells him, Ali ibn Abi Hamza tells the Imam, but we have a hadith that says all of the Imams should have male offspring. Okay? They should have sons. So he's using this against Imam al-Rida. One of the facts about Imam al-Rida is that he didn't have a son until later on in his age. That was one of the things that they used against him. So this hadith is being used. You hear that, you're like, it's thrown out. You're like, oh, what do we do with this? The Imam told him, isn't there an exception that you're missing here? That you're intentionally omitting here? He said, no. He said, yes, there is. The Imams that said that said, إِلَّا الْقَائِمِ, except the upriser. Okay. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. It's interesting. This very hadith, if it was read the right way, was proof against them. Because they were claiming that Imam al-Kadhim is the Qa'im. But Imam al-Kadhim had a son. If they would have read that hadith correctly, that was proof against them. But they were intentionally taking that out. Imam al-Rida had to go through a lot of struggle to tell the people that these guys are liars, provide clear explanation. This is how he did it, by explaining. Questions were brought forth. What about this hadith? What about that hadith? We heard from Az-Zur'ah that they said that Imam al-Kadhim is going to resemble 5 prophets, one of them being Yusuf, one of them being Jesus. The Imam said that's a lie. He didn't say, oh, who am I to judge? No, sometimes you have to come out very firmly. That's a lie. That's not what the Imams had said previously. What they said was the Qa'im is going to have resemblance of 5 prophets, not Imam al-Kadhim. They didn't say Imam al-Kadhim has that. So, through showing the people, first of all, this is going to happen, and guiding them out of it, these ulama, the true ones, the good ones, the pious ones are watching this, and all these experiences are adding and enriching their knowledge, their understanding, their practice, their conduct, the way to handle things. Okay. I'll just briefly mention the last example of this that happened during the minor occultation. Now, I want to say that this training had or gave its fruits at this stage, or started that. Husayn ibn Ruh, when Husayn ibn Ruh, who is, I believe, the 3rd of the deputies or the Nawab of the Imam of our time, he had a close friend known as Ibn al-Ghazairi, al-Shalmaghani. Ibn al-Ghazairi is a later date. I think it's Abu al-Adhafir or something like that. Anyway, he's known as Ash-Shalmaghani. He's with Husayn ibn Ruh in Baghdad. Close friend. When Husayn ibn Ruh becomes the deputy of the Imam, this Shalmaghani starts to feel that jealousy, and he can't stand Husayn ibn Ruh having that position and he not have it. Although he has said in one report, there's an account of him saying this, that he knows why Husayn ibn Ruh was supposed to become that deputy and he is not qualified for it. He understood it. It's not like he didn't know. No, he understood very well why Husayn ibn Ruh was qualified and he was not qualified. But the jealousy was killing him. So he started fabricating things. Again, ghulu. Okay, like Abu al-Khattab. Right? Through ghulu, he was able to gather some people around him. And some believe, there are accounts of this, that the Nusayris that came about in Syria, that believed the Ahlul Bayt are so high ranking, they're sort of the Lord or their gods or so on and so forth, and they don't believe in any of the practice, any of the practical laws, were the creation of this man, Shalmaghani. At this point, the accounts that talk about Hussein ibn Ruh dealing with this don't tell us that Hussein ibn Ruh at this point is struggling what to do, what not to do. I need to write a letter to the Imam, or even the people having to write those letters to the Imam. He handles it very carefully in a very appropriate manner, where the people, a very, very small population, unfortunately, these are tests that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts us through. Some people fall for it. A small group of people went him, but the majority were saved of the fitna of Ash-Shalmaghani. Okay. And the ulama from there have developed this skill, which is very, very important. One of the responsibilities of the Hawza is to make sure, if you have people that are not qualified for representing true Shia teachings, that people don't get confused. If you have a body of pious ulama telling you a particular marja who claims to be a marja is not a marja, it's their responsibility to do that. Some people have gotten on to some of the ulama for doing this. God would be getting on to them if they wouldn't do that. It's their responsibility. So this is what the Ahlul Bayt have done. What about after? Like, we have the Hawza now. Okay, I want to say a few words with regards to the Hawza, okay, and the establishment, the institution that we have today. All right. The most important thing that I can say about it, the most important quality that it has now, which makes it the miracle of the Ahlul Bayt, is the continuity. Okay. This is extremely important. Generation after generation, these ulama are indirect students of the Imams, because their teachers learned directly under their teachers, and those teachers from the previous generation, from the previous generation, from the previous generation, all the way to the time of the Imams. We have something called ijazat. Okay, ijazat. We have these books called fihrist. You have one, Najashi has a fihrist, Sheikh At-Tusi has a fihrist, other ulama had fihrists as well. They would list the authors and their link, or their links between them and that author. For example, Sheikh At-Tusi says how he gets from his teachers all the way to Zurara ibn A'yan, the companion of Imam As-Sadiq salamullah alayhi. That explains, you find out how, or what are his teachers. Sheikh At-Tusi studied under Sheikh Al-Mufid. Sheikh Al-Mufid studied under his teachers, one of whom is Sheikh As-Saduq. Sheikh As-Saduq under his teachers. Okay. And then those teachers, from their teachers all the way to the interaction between these ulama is extremely important to understand. In other words, teacher-student relationship. You don't have this chain cutting off at any point in history. Okay. You don't have this establishment starting out of the blue, out of nowhere, just people picking up books and reading them and becoming the students of the Ahlul Bayt. No, this is not the Hawza that we have. And this is very, very important. There has to be a physical presence with a teacher and a student. They've got to be there. The student has got to see the behavior of the teacher, feel his breath, feel him speak to him. Okay. And that is what is going to train this person, not just picking up books and reading them. The Imams directly taught their students, those students taught their students, and we have what we have today in this way. Okay. You do not, the chain doesn't break anywhere. Okay. It changes locations. You have Hilla, you have Najaf, you have Baghdad, you have Jabal Amal, you have Qom, you have Isfahan at certain times. We have houses in these different, but each of them, Ibrahim ibn Hashim and the Ash'aris come to Qom, they bring the ahadith that they learn from their teachers all the way to Qom, and that's how you have a house in Qom. It's not just out of the blue. Okay. And this is something very important for us to appreciate. Very, very important. The reason why they're able to have this and be able to carry on this task of preserving this religion is because they have indirectly felt the ma'sumin. Okay? They have felt people, been with people, heard people that have heard their teachers and those teachers from their teachers all the way to the ma'sumin without any disconnect. Okay. There's a couple of other points with regards to this that if we maybe have the tawfiq, maybe we'll discuss them tomorrow. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to please the heart of the Imam from all of us, inshallah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to hasten his return. We ask him to help us become the true companions and followers of this Imam. We ask him to protect, prolong the life of, and give good health to all those helping the cause of Islam, especially the Maraja, and especially the leader. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us all of our sins. We ask him to forgive our parents, our relatives, our grandparents, all believers, those who are alive, those who have left this world, of their sins. We ask him to grant all of us and all believers their hajat, relieve all of us and all believers of illnesses and difficulties and hardships. And we ask him to relieve all the people of the world of the different oppressions they're facing. Bin Nabi wa alih rahimallah man qara al-Fatihata ma'as salawat.